Hello, students. Time for our weekly philosophy appetizer. This week's ideas come from a book that I read many years ago. Fascinating book called Becoming Dr. Q. It's the autobiography of Dr. Alfredo Quinones-Hinojosa. He came to the United States at 19 years old as a migrant worker and went on to become a U.S. citizen and later on went to UC Berkeley, Harvard Medical School, and became one of our nation's most prominent neurosurgeons and researchers. And today I'm going to read to you from an early section of the book here, and it's called Terra Firma, which means solid ground. The scene is set when he has finished medical school and he's doing his first series of residences and internships. And in this time, he was placed at San Francisco General Hospital in the trauma area of the emergency department. So let me pick it up here. It says here, um, it says, from outside the hospital on that gloomy summer night came the sounds of police sirens, honking horns, and distant voices echoing down dark streets. I composed myself, pushed through the staff door into the emergency room, and strode to Trauma Zone 1, Bay 2, where the members of the trauma team were finishing up their evaluation of the patient. As I moved toward the partition space where the patient lay with feet toward me, I saw that he was a young African American man in his late teens or early 20s. On further approach, I observed that the yellow transport table underneath him was drenched with blood and gray matter. A wave of nausea and dread hit me hard. The room began to spin, but I moved closer to assess the damage, fighting the feeling that I was descending into quicksand. When I reached his immobile body on the transport table, I slowly knelt down next to his head, where I could see that part of his skull was missing. Peering more closely, I was jolted by an unforgettable and shocking sight. A tunnel through his head with a bright white light glaring at the end of it. My God, I thought, how can this be? Then my answer came. The light was from the x ray box secured on the counter on the other side of the patient. The quote unquote light at the end of the tunnel was no metaphor for a patient whose life hangs in the balance, but in fact, this patient's real condition, an actual tunnel in his head through which a bright white light blazed from a source outside of him. Rocked off balance again, my knees buckling, I felt for the floor to steady myself, seeking a semblance of terra firma. But to my surprise, I found my grounding force not in the physical support under me, but in an arsenal of memories that suddenly surfaced. A memory I had once tried to forget overshadowed the rest. An image of me at the bottom of the dark abyss, battling death, holding fast to the side of my own light at the end of a tunnel, in need of a miracle. Now, later in the book, he tells the story of what happened. He and his brother and some other guys were working in the shipyards here in California. And one night, as they were doing the cleaning, he fell inside one of the tanks. And there was still enough combustible in there for the fumes to overcome him. And so he was lying down there on this in this tanker, uh, being overcome by these fumes, seeing and feeling his life slowly drift away. Fortunately, his companions figured out what was going on, and his brother rushed out there, and they were able to pull him out, and he survived. So he continues here saying, that image arrested my freefall, and in a surge of faith, I recalled the years of my education and the life lessons that had prepared me to face other crises. Memories arose to remind me of the courageous doctors and caregivers who had inspired me to choose medicine. Courage, I remembered, was not the absence of fear, but the refusal to give up. And of course, he goes on to tell the story of how he goes ahead and deals with this patient, his first patient in his first night of his stint at San Francisco General Hospital's emergency department. I think what's important about this story is that in a moment of great crisis, in a moment of great uncertainty, Dr. Q, as he is fondly called, was able to find his grounding, to find his, terra firma, his solid ground, in a set of memories, memories of the people that took care of him when he almost died, and that inspired him to one day himself become a doctor and give hope to other people. And believe me, he has. If you read the rest of his story, many people have been saved because of his research and because of his efforts. Uh, I just want to share with you this story, not only because I can connect with his story, his life story, but also because I want you to think about your own path through life. You are going to face many times of uncertainty, confusion, challenging situations. And in those kinds of situations is where you have to ask yourself, uh, what do I have to stand on? What is going to hold me through this process? I hope that you have your own terra firma, your own solid ground. For some people, it is faith. For some people, it's the ambition and drive they have to succeed. For some people, it's family or the love of dear ones. There are many ways to find your grounding, but I just want to encourage you while you're still young to develop that sense that there is something that I can always go back to, something to find my solid ground so that when I face adversity, I can stand firm. Right? That's our philosophy appetizer, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Peace out.